Hey, what's up guys? Coach Nate and Edward here from the Run Experience. Today, I'm really excited to have Edward here to talk about how to get faster for older runners, right? Because this guy has just recently qualified for Boston Marathon 61, and he has got some great things to say, and we're gonna talk about it. So Edward here is actually down from Alaska representing
Skinny Raven.
The Skinny Raven Run Club, and we want to talk to him because Edward just qualified for the Boston Marathon, and we wanted to pick your brain and understand some of your magic. What went into you qualifying for Boston?
It was a bit of a journey. I'd been trying to qualify for probably 4 or 5 years and had sort of plateaued through a lot of marathon training, and so it was a lot about finding what was the right training program for me.
What was the right approach? Maybe we start there, right? Because a lot of us are qualifying, trying to qualify for Boston at all ages, right? And that plateau is a very real thing. Like, what was some of the experiences of the plateau for you, and how did you get out of it?
Well, one of the I had an online training program, and one of the things that was unusual about it, at least when I was taking it, is that all of the paces were just about always at the same pace. So, but this was for a half marathon program to start. But
was that the pace that you were trying to run for the race itself?
Actually, it was calculated on some other value that I had given the program, but it really wasn't my race pace.
It really wasn't.
So, but the time race day came around, I saw that I wasn't ready to run that race pace because I really hadn't practiced it.
Because you hadn't been practicing, you'd been doing this other pace and then this. So that was a big piece of that.
That was when I noticed that the program that I had, where it was just really sort of a single pace, was not the right approach to it. I wasn't getting enough effort in at the paces that I thought I wanted to run my races at.
That's cool. And then so you had that realization, and then that prompted you to make some changes.
It had me look for more inclusive types of training plans, ones that had speed work and long work and tempo work and all of the components. I mean, you think about a marathon being 26 miles and you're going, I'm not running a 400-meter race here, so why should I be running those kind of paces and those kind of training paces? And
the temptation with these longer events is I just need to do long and slow because that's the whole thing, and what's the value for me going at these shorter, faster paces?
Right. So as I learned more about what those paces were trying to get me to, the faster paces get me at a more efficient running form, better foot turnover, better just better structure in my runs. And so having those included in my training plan was really critical if I was going to continue to improve. But in a similar thing, when I was doing my long runs, I couldn't be running them too fast, or else I wasn't spending enough time structurally getting my body physically strong enough to be able to handle the distance.
Interesting. So did you have any concerns, right? Because maybe a lot of times that stuff is left out of people's plans because it's considered risky. Right? What did you do to kind of get over those concerns yourself, or to kind of mitigate some of that risk, right? So all of a sudden you're approaching a plan that has some of this higher intensity. Was it just as easy as I'm just going to add it in and see what happens?
It sort of started with a little bit of experimentation about I had some goal paces that were put out for these different things, and for a lot of times I had difficulty believing that I could actually hit those paces and hit them repeatedly in a way that the people that had designed the program for me had said that this is what it's going to do for you.
Right.
So part of it was sort of a mental step of saying that I can do this.
Interesting. Can you give an example of maybe a specific workout or a specific pace that you were there's no way I can run this, and they're having me run this?
Right. There was it was a quality long run. So that means that you have some at an easy pace, and then you run some other ones at race pace.
Right.
And some you would then further increase it, but you would do 2 miles at this pace, and then take a
what were those paces for you, right? Let's get specific, right? Let's get in.
Okay, so my training pace was right around a 9-minute mile. That was my.
And I'm not even going to pretend like you don't remember that shit, right? You have that down in the back of your brain.
Right. And then it would be.
So the 2 miles, was at 9-minute pace, and that was like your easier kind of recovery.
And then it would go up by 15 or 20 seconds per mile in 2 mile increments.
Okay.
And where my fastest one was 2 miles at 8:15.
Okay.
So, when I saw the length of them, because this was over a 16 or 20 mile run.
Wow, that's a lot.
So I'm going, I don't know how I'm going to handle it. Is it going to be fatiguing? It's cold. There's all those things where I had this mental doubt that what I wanted to accomplish, I could really accomplish, and that I was going to somehow at the other end come out and really be hurting.
Amazing.
And what I found is that the paces that they gave me were accurate, and I could actually do that.
So what it sounds like to me is that to really qualify for the Boston, you were unafraid to push yourself, and or perhaps the initial part was you were followed a plan that was a little on the conservative side, and then you found a way to really attack things.
Right.
That's really, really cool. I want to take a quick break, but then what I want to get after is what are the things you did to keep yourself healthy, and some of the things that, are you treating your body the same now as you did 30 years ago, when you're closer to my age? Like, what are some of the realities there that you have to do to still achieve and perform at a really high level?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We're taking it down here because Nora wanted some pets. Really, is really what her reason was.
It's all about the dog.
But we were just starting to talk quickly about, that your running journey started a little bit later than a lot of people.
Right. I was probably in my mid to late 50s when I had started running.
What made you want to start running?
Part of it was I was doing sort of like a getting healthier thing with my wife, and part of that included some running stuff, and I found that I had a real affinity to it, and I had a skill there that I didn't think I had before.
That's cool.
And I found that so she finished doing what she was doing, and I just kept running.
Oh, that's great. So you kind of got into it, and of course, once you start down, you can get deep.
Once it was the thing of realizing that I had potential that I could tap.
Yeah.
And not knowing how far that was going to go. I was going, could I qualify for a Boston? I mean, because I heard that as it's like the running Mecca thing.
Right.
Is that something that I could achieve? And I was going, I don't know.
So you started working towards it.
So let's see where this goes.
Now, as you did that, you just mentioned you read a helpful book that kind of got you in the right mindset.
Right. We've mentioned Joe Friel a lot, and he wrote a book in his 70s called Fast After 50.
Fast After 50.
And the thing that he said that really struck me was that you can't be afraid of the really hard work, and you can't just settle back into all your runs are the same pace. You think you deserve a rest. I mean, if you want to continue to improve, you have to continue to tax the systems that you used to tax when you were in your 20s and 30s. You're going to need more recovery time. You're going to need to pay attention to your body. You're going to need attention to nutrition. Because those are the things that really do change as you get older, is that you need more recovery time. Your body needs more and different kinds of fuels that you maybe couldn't tolerate, or you tolerated differently when you were younger. So you have to really be aware.
Let's talk about recovery specifically, right? So what do you think changed for you? Because obviously you didn't start running until later. Did you have a set number of days that you would run? Keeping in, like, just for where you're at right now, that might have been different when you were younger. Like, for example, like, okay, I'm a master's runner, so I'm really only doing 5 runs a week, not 6. Or I need, like, intensity is important, but I can only do them on these types of days versus, more?
Well, it was finding out where my body could be at. And the thing that I found when I was really just starting to run is that if I pushed it too hard for too long and didn't pay attention to myself, that I got hurt.
Right.
And so I started just learning to tune in to how my body was responding to the load that I was giving it. And I found that 4 to 5 days worked really well. I could do 4 to 5 really quality days. I could get in close to 50 miles total when I was at my peak of my marathon training. And I could still take time to recover. I realized that at this age, you don't have a lot of second chances. You have to get it right. So if you're injured, you're not in the game. So you have to do everything you can to stay on track with your training program, to keep training, because the work over time is what pays off. If you work really hard for 2 weeks and then have to take 3 weeks off because you hurt yourself, you're in no better shape than you were 6 weeks ago.
Right. So that's really where that old darn consistency comes in at that bigger level.
Right. And it takes a lot of discipline to be able to say, okay, I'm going to tone this back a little bit. I am going to maybe rearrange this workout because this other workout that I did has me a lot more tired. Or, as often happens too with older people, we have a lot of other life responsibilities that you don't have when you're young. So you have houses to have to pay for, and you have families that you have to take care of, and you have other older parents that need help. So that
there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of time. There are a lot of things competing for that time to train.
Right. So it takes a lot of discipline and commitment to the actual training itself.
That's interesting. So one of the other things that, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention on this, was that, you started to follow and work with the Run Experience. Right. And, we got to be part of your journey for this, which we're totally honored to be. What were some of the things that you found helpful? Because you are, getting to know you better, an incredibly resourceful person, and you educate yourself and you go out and get so much information. What were some of the things that we were able to provide to help you in this training?
Okay. The key parts were as good as the running parts of the training programs that I had were. There was really no inclusion other than maybe at a really high level of, you should be doing this kind of maintenance work, and you should be just doing this kind of strength cross training work, and this is why you should be doing it, and this is why it's important. You should learn how to take care of your body. There was no mention of that in this other training program that I had. So I started looking to fill that gap. And I still remember I saw one of your early videos where you were doing the push-up challenge. And I had never seen anybody do a push-up like that before. And then you started explaining why that form was relevant to being a runner. And I was going, this makes a lot of sense to me. This is something, I don't want to say that I want to try and shortcut it, but I'm going, I want to get the maximum benefit for the least amount of time and the least amount of effort. And that's kind of
one push-up. No, I'm kidding. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, if that's
no,
what does
I
it for
know
you.
for sure.
But like the whole idea of how it supports your running form.
Yeah.
It was just
really cool.
It was really a transition point for me. Going like, this is an approach that makes sense to me. This is an approach that supports all this other work that I'm doing. So I just needed to go down that path and see how deep that rabbit hole went and how much it's supported. And it's been great. I spend a lot more time understanding my body now, what it needs in terms
That's really great.
In terms of strength and flexibility.
And thinking yourselves as much as an athlete, not just a specific runner.
Right.
And one of the things I find that's interesting with the runner mindset is that it can be limiting. It says, I'm a runner, I can't do certain things because I'm not supposed to. I can't lift something heavy. I can't help you move your couch because I'm in my marathon training, I might pull my back, or I don't see other runners doing this stuff, so I may not do it either. And then what's also interesting when we think about this fear aspect is that might also prevent us from actually pushing hard and stressing the systems we need to stress, even at older ages, to perform. So for Joe Friel to say, hey, you want to get better as an older athlete, guess what? It's the same principles that apply to everyone else.
Right.
You got to show up and work hard, and you got to recover too.
Right.
And maybe at an older age, maybe my recovery window is a little bit different, but if I respect the process of reading and listening to my body, of what's going on, I give my body what it needs at certain times, I am able, even at older ages, to really push myself hard and still recover and stay healthy.
Yeah, and the improvements come, and it's you do learn that you do have very physical limitations. I mean, there are sometimes ranges of motion are just not what they were. You have to pay attention to nutrition. But there are boundaries that you can push. Just because you're in your 50s and 60s doesn't mean that there aren't new frontiers. There aren't new things that you can accomplish. It's I don't really know where my limit is right now. I mean,
that's cool.
Based on a VO2 max thing, has me being capable of running a 3:30 marathon, and that's one of those things we talked about. It's one of those things I can't get my head wrapped around that quite yet. But I hit the 1:42 half marathon that I didn't think I was going to hit either. So
that's awesome.
So it's
we got more in the tank.
I don't know where that is, so I just have to keep being mindful about the work that I do and keep trying to keep making progress.
That's an exciting place to be, and perhaps a good place to wrap this up.
Okay.
Do you have any final last words for any of those would-be Boston Marathon qualifiers? They've run 4 or 5 marathons, they haven't hit it yet.
If you're not doing speed work, you need to do speed work. If you're not doing strength work, you need to do strength work. And the important thing to realize is that it doesn't really matter when you do something. It just matters if you do something.
I love that. Well, Edward, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's go get some tacos.
Woo! Tacos!
All right. Coach Nate here from the Run Experience and Coach Edward here to, there we go. We are going to talk about how to run faster for older athletes.
Okay, but if you like these tips, like what I had to say, hit that like button down below.
There we go. And if you have any comments for Edward or questions or anything else you want to follow up, learn his secret sauce, drop that down below there too. And of course, subscribe to our channel, guys, because we got tons of great content and videos coming out each and every week. We want you to be the first to see it.